Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to show you what I'm doing with my ASB class for our like spreading the kindness type of movement thing. So I already went over it in a previous video, kind of just a general idea of what we're doing. So when kids come into class, just like my English class, they'll come in and they'll have about 5 minutes. And for my English class, they usually write a journal, but for my ASB class, they're actually going to be writing a letter. So I've been doing it for a while, and the kids are writing letters, and basically they'll write a letter to a random student that I give them. So example, this is what our papers look like. There's names on them and there's lines. So I'll cut off a strip and I'll give that to a random person who walks in. So I only give the papers to students who are present. So if a student is absent, I won't give their strip to someone else. So that way everyone who's here gets a letter from somebody else instead of having to give one to a student who didn't show up and then they didn't get one back. So I think that's a little unfair. So in order to make that a little more fair, I make sure that whoever's here gets a strip of someone else who is here. So I'll cut these out, and kids will have 5 minutes, roughly 5 minutes, to write a letter to that person just to make sure that they're having a good day. And I tell the kids, just imagine that something really bad happened in their life or something that they're really struggling with, because we do get a lot of kids who are struggling with things. And I actually had a student come up to me and tell me how she was struggling through some things, and just the idea of this whole movement is really very impactful for her, very meaningful for her, and helping her through things. So for students to get letters when there's something bad that happens to them, or if they're going through something, it really helps them feel so much better, and to know that people are there to take care of them, to talk to, even just the little conversations, just to talk about it. Like, it makes such a difference to someone who's having a tough day. So they'll have about 5 minutes. They'll write on their little strip, and then after that they're going to turn it into me. Now I read all of these because I want to screen them and make sure that they're actually, you know, saying things that are appropriate and just really making an impact. I also give points to them, so as I'm reading it, I'll check, you know, if they did it or not, and I'll give them points based on what they write and things like that. So if a student turns something in and it sounds a lot like something you would hear in a yearbook, like, hey, good year, hope you have a great rest of your year, great knowing you, things like that, I do deduct points because that's not really like very meaningful. I teach the kids how to write to someone that they don't even know, and just try to make them feel better. Like, even if you don't know them, it's not as nice to hear something, hope you have a great rest of your year, when realistically you have all year left. So instead of telling them to have a good year, tell them like, hey, let's hang out today, or here's my number, let's catch up on whatever. So I tell them, you know, there's different things that you can say to someone to make them feel like they actually care, and there's things that, you know, you can tell, oh, you're just writing that because you have to, things like that. So anyways, I will read them, I will screen them, I will give kids points for writing them, and then after I screen them, and if they're okay, I will put them in their little envelopes. So let me show you what that looks like. So over here in the back of the class, I put up some paper to cover these 2 windows, and I'm going to put up some more to cover the rest, just because I really like how it looks. And I also put up all of these envelopes. So the envelopes just have the student pictures on them, and they have their names on them, and then in each one, it has letters. So these are the letters that were written to the students, and the student gets to pick one out each day and read that letter. So it's also signed by whoever wrote it, so they can see who wrote what, and it's not like an anonymous thing. It's like a, hey, let's be friends. So I hung these up through magnets because this whole like border here is metal. I decided to use magnets and just have them just magnetized on here. That way I can take the envelopes off and put them back on whenever I need. And originally I was going to put them up here on the paper. I was just going to like tape them on or glue them on, but I had a feeling that if I were to glue them or tape them on, a student would grab, you know, their thing out, but they'll take the envelope with them and it'll rip this paper. So I decided not to do that. I just wanted to use the magnets. So it looks really cool. I know the lighting, you can't really tell, but it looks really cool, just all lined up on this metal bar. I really love it. It looks so cool. So we do have some kids that are absent a little more. So there's one on the end over there, and I keep the absent kids more on the end because they're kind of harder to get. So when kids are absent, they don't get a letter, which is kind of sad. So if a student comes in and they write a letter to someone who's absent, that person who's absent will get a letter, but the person who was here may not get a letter because that absent person wasn't here to write one for someone else who was here. So it gets a little tough like that. So when that does happen, as you saw, there was only one envelope that didn't have a letter in it, but there's actually 3 students that are chronically absent in my class. So out of those 3 students, well, we did this for 4 days so far. So each student has roughly 1 to 4 letters, with the exception of 1, because that student didn't show up the last 4 days. So in that situation, I take it upon myself to write a personal letter to that student as well, just to like remind them, hey, I'm really glad you're in my class. Unfortunately, you're not here. I really wish you were. We're so much better as a team when we're all here, and just kind of like giving them positive reinforcement at the same time as, hey, like, we really need you. Come on over, like, join us. Come to class, hope everything's okay, because you don't know what's going on. So just let them know, like, hope everything's okay. And I think it's important that everybody does get a letter, even if it is like just from me, which I think is also really important for building relationships from teacher to student. So the student can understand, like, oh, you really want me here, like, I'll come to class, like, I'm sorry, I'm going through some things, and they'll feel more comfortable coming up to you and talking to you and explaining their situation instead of just like not coming, you know. Because that's one thing that happens a lot, is that when someone's absent chronically, it's really easy to think that, you know, that kid just doesn't care about school, or they don't care about their education, but you don't know until that person talks to you and you get an idea of, you know, they're probably going through something. You have no idea. They might be going through something. Maybe maybe their mom died and they're getting kicked out of their apartment and they're struggling to find a place to live, or something happened. Like, you really don't know until you talk to that person. So just being able to write letters back and forth just makes it really open for the student to just come in and like talk to you and feel more comfortable. So that's something that I do. Something also that I'm doing today is I'm writing a letter to a student who came in after we were talking, and she was like opening up to me, and she was really trusting me with everything that she was going through and trusting me enough to tell me and talk to me. So what I did was I had this right here. We have a Starbucks gift card. So this is a $10 Starbucks gift card. I just put it in with the letter, and I'll put it inside of her little envelope so that way she can read a letter and she gets a gift card for opening up to me and trusting me. And not just that, she actually came by after school to help me out for 2 hours. She came by to help me out. So just building that trust and giving her the opportunity to talk when she was helping me out after school. So I think that, you know, let's reward that trust. Let's kind of build it even more. And I don't know, I just think it's a really good idea. So whenever students do really good on a test, you can also give it to them in like the envelopes and give them like a gift card or some kind of like little candy or sticker or something, whatever, and put it inside a little envelope. So again, mine's ASB, so we don't really have tests, but if we did have tests, I would give like, oh, you got an A+, I'm gonna fold it up and put it in your envelope, write a letter that goes with it, and I'm gonna take off a sticker and I'm gonna put it in your envelope with it. So it's just a good idea. It really helps build that relationship, and the students really enjoy it. They really do. And especially with students who don't talk a lot. I have a couple kids in my ASB class who are very, very, very quiet, and this whole activity gets them writing to people that they don't even know, and it gets them reading letters from people they don't even know in their class. So they kind of build relationships with each other, and they get to know each other a little more, because if you have a really quiet kid and a really loud kid, chances are they may not talk as much together, or maybe, you know, they're too quiet, they're too nervous to go and talk to somebody else. Well, now someone else is kind of coming to them to talk while they're kind of in that safe zone. So kind of like when you think about what are they called, like keyboard warriors or something, where they're like so quiet in person, but when they're behind the keyboard they can talk and talk. So it's kind of like that. So it's like, instead of being behind a keyboard, you know, they're behind that pencil and paper. So it helps them feel a little more comfortable to talk to other people too. And I encourage the students to give them like their Instagram or their Snapchat or their phone number or any type of social media, so that they can contact each other outside of school. That way they can build that relationship outside of school too, even if it's just kind of small, like, hey, I missed the homework for my science class and we had the class together, what was for homework, can you help me? Or hey, we're all going to Knott's Berry Farm, can you come and join us? And I bring up Knott's Berry Farm because something that really, really warms my heart is that the kids in my ASB class actually have a very good group, a tight-knit group. Now, some of the kids already graduated previous quarters, but they have this tight-knit group where every single one of them bought a Knott's Berry Farm pass, and they're going every weekend, and it's just really, it makes me so happy that I'm able to have these kids come together and like, I don't know, it feels so good because like, oh, you know, like without me in this class, like that probably would have never happened. So I encourage the kids, like, hang out outside of school, hang out outside of class, and just go somewhere, because that's when you really get to know someone, is when you're having fun. So if you're at Knott's Berry Farm and you're like screaming on a ride, you're having so much fun on a roller coaster, you really get to know more of that person than you would just sitting in class, because maybe they're super quiet in class. So I encourage kids to hang out. So I always encourage, you know, give them your phone number, give them your Snapchat or your Instagram or any type of social media. Give them a way to contact you, and not just your email, because students don't really use email a lot unless it's for school, which is good, but I just encourage that. I encourage them to hang out. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to show you. So I read them. Definitely, if you're gonna do this, read them before you give them to them, because there was one I actually got, and I don't want to put the kid on blast, as they like to say, but there's one letter that I got that you can tell they're not trying to be mean at all. They're not trying to be mean, but if I got it, I would be kind of like, oh, it'd kind of make me feel bad. So the student wrote, hey, I'm so glad we're friends. I love you, and I'm so happy that we got to meet each other. Honestly, when I first met you, I thought you were stuck up, and I didn't want to talk to you. And it's just so cool how you're not, and how different that is. And I personally, like, I don't think it's that bad, but I'm not going to give this out, because if I were getting a letter from someone and they thought I was stuck up, I wouldn't like that. So anyways, when we first started this, I actually had the kids write it on blank paper, lined paper, and I told them to fill like half the page. I'm not showing you the front because I don't want you to read it, you know, but I have them fill up about half the page. So usually when they get to this middle line, that's what I tell them. When you get to the middle hole right here, or the middle line, then that's where you should stop. And I read them not just to screen like what they're saying is appropriate, but even the slightest little thing, like, I thought you were stuck up when I first saw you, or when I first met you, and I'm so glad we're friends. Like, even the smallest little thing like that. If someone's having a bad day and they think like, you thought I was stuck up when you met me, like, that would hurt. It would make your day a little worse. Even if you say, oh, I love you, you're my best friend, all this stuff. I don't want any type of negativity in there, because this is supposed to be completely positive and help people out. So this one I did take aside, but I also screen them because I give kids pointers on how to write letters and how to make people feel good. So when I do see the ones that sound like yearbooks, I tell them, you know, this sounds like something you would read in a yearbook. So if I am writing you this like 3-liner that says, hey, I'm glad you're in my class this year, you seem cool, have a great rest of your year, that does not make me feel good. That makes me feel like you just wrote it because you had to. And I tell that to the students too, you know, I'm expecting more. So for those ones, I would give them less points, because it's not supposed to be like a yearbook entry. It's supposed to be a meaningful letter. Because I teach at a continuation school in a low socioeconomic area, I do get a lot of kids who go through a lot in their lives, and it's just really good to see them taking care of each other. Even if they don't know what's going on in the other person's life, I want to see them taking care of each other. And this kind of goes back to my previous school, where I was completely ready to quit teaching. I was done. I was having the worst years teaching. It was my 2nd or 3rd year. I just couldn't handle it anymore. I was ready to quit. And it was one student who came up to me and he was like, you know what, Miss Wiley, I'm so glad to have you as a teacher. I've just never had a teacher like you, and I can feel like you really care about me and you really want me to learn, and I feel like I can really learn from you. And it was right then where I was just like, you know what, okay, I'm okay. I got this. This is worth it. I see that I'm making an impact, and it just changed my day completely. It changed my day. In fact, it changed my week. I'm gonna let that go a little bit. But yeah, that same day I was crying because a student had told me, Miss Wiley, you're the worst teacher I've ever had, and you're never gonna read this journal entry, and I'm just writing this so you can give me my points back, because I had taken points away from that student who was talking. So after that, I was crying because he told me I was the worst teacher and I suck at being a teacher. And that was like my second or third year at that school. I was still pretty new to classroom management and how to handle so many conflicting behaviors. I didn't know how to do it and I was just struggling. But when I got that journal entry, because I tell them, you know, I read them, and I guess the student didn't believe me that I read them. He didn't think I would, so I took a picture of it and I spoke to him after class, and he was just very, you know, he wouldn't even talk type of thing. He was very like rude, and I was like, I'm trying, like, what can I do? And he would just say, I don't know, just do better. And I'm like, how though? Like, do you have any tips? What are you saying from your other teachers? And he was just so mean to me, and I was crying after he left. And then that next period, this other student came over. He's like, Miss Wiley, you're just such an amazing teacher. I've never had a teacher like you, and I think that I can really learn from you. And I was just like, okay, like it just made my day so much better. So by teaching these kids how to take care of each other, even when you don't think they're having a bad day, just imagine they're having a bad day and just help them. So anyways, I just wanted to show you that and tell you what I was doing with all of that. Let me know if you use this. I think it's really good if you teach a leadership class, a PAL class, or ASB or anything like that. Just let me know. I think it's really good. I really think it is. And it doesn't have to be just for students. Like, you can just write letters to staff members, have students write letters to staff members. That actually brings me to my next little thing that I'm doing with them. So I went over this a little bit. In my other video. It looks like this. So in each box, students are doing random acts of kindness, and I don't let them do any of them to me, because I don't want it to be like, oh, well, you have to do random acts of kindness, what are you going to do for me type of stuff. I don't want that. I want it to be for other teachers. So I tell them, you know, this is what you got to do, but you can't do it for me. I have in here that what is it, Tuesday. So I have in here that Tuesday, May 7th is Teacher Appreciation Day. So make a photo collage, a video, or a homemade DIY gift for a teacher on Teacher Appreciation Day. And I thought that was so cool. And right when I told the students, they got so excited and they're thinking about all these things they're going to do for me. And I was like, but you can't do it for me. And then I had some other students saying, well, can we do it for you and another teacher? I said, that's cool, that's fine. But you can't do it just for me. You have to do it for another teacher. So I have all these things for them to do on here. So when they finish these, I stamp them. And then I'm just going to take these and I'm going to put them up on our wall over by our envelopes. So kind of just on these papers, and again, these are going to all have papers on them too, but I'm just going to tape these up on the windows so that they can all be displayed too. So I think that's really fun, and it really just makes people feel better, and if they're having a bad day, it really helps them out. The whole reason I brought this up is because I was having a bad day, and I was like, you know what, let's do something about this. Let's make sure that everybody's here for each other, because it's really hard going through life if nobody like takes care of each other. Like, how are we gonna succeed as a society if nobody takes care of each other? So I'm teaching them, you know, let's take care of each other. Let's make sure that we're there for each other. Even if you don't like them, you know, just take care of them. Do something nice for them. Who cares? You don't have to like everybody, but you should be nice to everybody. It's really, like, that's what I tell them. It's that simple. So anyways, that's what I'm doing in my class. Let me know if you have any questions, and definitely let me know if you try this out. I'm gonna end this video here, so please make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Please share it on your Pinterest or on your Facebook or something, Twitter. That really helps me out. I am a small YouTuber. I'm growing slowly but surely, and it's so exciting. But yeah, give this video a thumbs up, like it, subscribe if you haven't, hit the bell so you get notified every time I make a new post, and I will see you next time. Bye.